I'm Mungo, and I'm going to take a few minutes just to share with you some of the work that we've been doing for Space. Space is a really unique product and database developed by the UK out-of-home industry. And it's been developed as a result of a realization that as we embrace technology and as technology uses data, we can no longer work as individual companies in silos, but we need to find ways of being able to share that data and use that in a consistent way across the industry to help both our individual companies, but also to help the whole industry. And so Space has been developed to work on the standards that are required to underpin those data sets, and also to provide the framework for us to be able to share data collaboratively between the buy and the sell side of the industry. Space itself is a collaboration between the IPA outdoor group, the buy side, and Outsmart, the sell side of the UK industry. And that collaboration is really important because it's both these parties that need to be able to share that data and use it in their own systems and in the way that they talk to each other and provide that data on ultimately to advertisers and clients. So the drivers for creating Space were that we needed to ensure that we could structure our industry standards in a way in which we were all agreed and could implement across all of our businesses. And we knew that if we could do that, it would reduce the duplication of efforts that were going to take place otherwise with everybody trying to create their own data sets and then find ways of cross-matching them, which would add complexity and time and effort. And what we really wanted to do was make out-of-home more efficient to transact, and in the future, more efficient to buy. We also have Root as the audience data set, which is managed by the industry. And if we could interface with Root, then that would provide another degree of standardization and organization in the way that the data was passed through different elements of the process in our industry. We knew that automated trading of different types was coming down the line, and Space was going to provide a core data set that allowed that development to take place in a more structured way, with people at least understanding the same terms for the data being passed, again, between buy side and sell side, but also when amalgamating buys from different media owners. So a number of really important drivers for making Space happen in the first place. In order to get that together, we needed, as I said, that cooperation across the industry, and we look forward now to where we are. We have all of the major players, both on the buy side and on the sell side, who are parties in Space, contributing together and helping to make that a reality, single database, single product across the industry. A really powerful thing to have achieved. That means we've got 50 plus media owners. About 95% of all of the UK out-of-homes frames are in there, represented by Outsmart members. And that means sort of 450,000 frames, both digital and static, incorporated across the database. And within that, all environments. Doesn't matter whether it's a small location, small site, airport, roadside, transport, everything is encompassed within the same core data set. So we've got that database of all of these UK out-of-home assets. What is it that we attach to them to make this data set really valuable? One of the first things we do is we make sure that every individual site has a unique identifier. And that identifier is only applied to that site, can't be duplicated by any other media owner who takes part in space. Happens to be a 10-digit number, makes it easy for anyone to call that. We then set a number of other data sets against that frame number, which help to describe how that site can be located or seen. We allocate to it, obviously, the media owner, the date that that site becomes live for purchasing, its format descriptions, that sort of its size, its dimensions, whether or not it's illuminated, what type of environment it's in, is it an underground site or a bus site, its exact location down to a very specific long and lat, and that's useful for route data, and I'll come back to that. And then additional data sets like schools, areas that might want to be avoided for HFSS type products, also held in the database so that they can easily be matched to the frames to make sure that the appropriate exclusions are taking place when they're required. So this data set, when it's compiled, is then able to be used by both the media owners and the media buyers, and it's provided in two ways. Some people will just want to look at an open web interface and draw down that data, perhaps into Excel spreadsheets, or just look at the individual assets. Some people want that to be a little bit more sophisticated and draw that into an API, and we provide that service as well. And space is an evolution. We know that the data that is required will continue to evolve, and that each year we look forwards and say, what are the other pieces of data that the industry might want to collaborate and might want to bring into space and might want to organize in a way that makes it easier for everyone to structure and use. And so we have a plan already for 2022 that we're working on, and that will continue to evolve. If you came into the front end, you would find, like any other website, a menu and a method of navigating that. If you had your API, you drive that data directly into whatever systems you're using to use that data and make decisions on it. If it was the API that, if it was the interface that you were looking at, you would come in and you would find a set of frames organized in a range of different windows, and that allows someone to go through and explore all of the data that is held within space, and that access is easy to achieve for everyone. When a media owner is putting an individual frame in, because sites are built on an ongoing basis, it's important that we ascribe all of the right data to it. And so there are very organized methods of ensuring that the data held against the frames is accurate and true. And then part of that is also agreeing the conventions for the naming. So environments are the types of areas that we would find sites in: an airport, an underground station, a roadside location. But there are others, for instance, indoor shopping centres or office spaces or retail, that need to have an organised naming convention so that everyone understands exactly what type of inventory will be found if you are only looking at a certain type of environment. This is all about ensuring that the data is easy to understand and easy to navigate for those people who want to make choices based upon it. But I talked about the fact that space changes a little bit in terms of us thinking about what might be needed next. And one of the new elements that we've introduced recently is also to look at the standardization of advertisers, brands, and products that are used across the industry so that we can provide them with codes that equally can be shared and used as a method of ensuring that transactions or data sharing between the buy side and the sell side is based upon an agreed set of terms. And that collaboration to create this across the buy and the sell side is absolutely imperative. We can see some examples of that, advertiser brand, but also categories. What categories does this advertiser fall into? And that again is important in terms of understanding where that advertiser may potentially be restricted from advertising or what the opportunities are across the out-of-home industry for it. I mentioned that we also pass that data in a way through an interface to Root, which is our audience measurement system across the industry. And in order to get a site classified by Root, it first has to be located on a map and set so that the audience can be understood in terms of the way that it would flow towards that particular panel. That is done in Root, but Space provides the window to pass all of that information directly through so that it is controlled, correct, and accurate when it reaches Root for that audience classification. So a real streamlining of the process, stopping that happening in lots of different ways and defining the best route to ensure accuracy and consistency of data. So I guess before Space, what happened was that if you were a media owner and you were passing information maybe to a buyer, maybe to an advertising technology partner who was using that, maybe to the audience research, everyone was making their own decisions about how to get it there and passing it there in slightly different formats and in slightly different ways. And that just creates complexity. But once Space came in, it meant that there was an organized structure for the way that data could be passed. And indeed, it was set in the database so that those people who wanted it could just pull that data as and when they needed it, rather than having to ask for consistent feeds or trying to find a way of consolidating it at their end. All of which is overseen by the standards committee made up of both the buy and the sell side to ensure that everyone is in agreement with how that data is put together and how it's managed. And that governance is really important because Space requires funding. It's funded. It's owned by the participants in the UK industry, IPAO and Outsmart. And the committee that oversees it is co-chaired by a member of each of those organizations. I actually represent Outsmart in that capacity. And MediaTel have been our technology partner since we launched in 2015. They understand the industry well, and they've been really helpful in working towards this objective that we've been on really since 2015. So we keep it accessible to everyone. It means that it can be accessed also by independent subscribers. We set that new roadmap to keep it fresh and relevant to the needs of tomorrow, not just of today. And I think there is a real opportunity for some of the work that we've done here to be used in other markets. It's difficult to bring people together, but once you've done it and once you've set a structure under which that can work, then there are real benefits both to the individual participants, but more importantly to the business industry in total. So if I was to sum up sort of why does it work really, it works because we've got good industry commitment and we've got oversight. We're making use of links to other things like root. We're providing clear methods by which anyone can access it, not just an API, not just a website, but whichever is the most preferable route for the users. We ensure that the master data is consistently standardized, which reduces effort for everyone, so all parties see a benefit in that in their own businesses, and we proactively manage and develop that as we go forwards. That data is validated, everybody trusts it as a result of that, and therefore they can make decisions on it. And it is updated on an ongoing and daily basis. A new site is created, a media owner can enter that in space, it can be seen, a buyer can access that information immediately. And if they want to, there are elements of that would allow them to link that into whatever planning and buying software is being used in that particular place. So some really good reasons why it works, why it's been successful, and it's a journey that we look forward to continuing, and I think has the opportunity to continue to grow. We would say this quite simply, Space is an example of best-in-class collaboration across the out-of-home industry. It gives us an excellent platform from which to develop the increasing requirements for data management and exchange. And that will continue to give brands the confidence to embrace in out-of-home and grow our medium.